Namaste. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. आज मलाई एकदम खुसी लागिरहेछ हाम्रो दुईजना हाम्रो आफ्नै नेपाली राइटर्स राइटिङ इन इङ्ग्लिस मञ्जुश्री थापा र प्रज्वल पराजुलीसँग आज छोटो गफ 1 घण्टा भनेको साह्रै नै थोरै समय हो प्रश्नहरू चाहिँ धेरै छ तर हेरौँ कहाँ पुग्छ सो आजको मेन सब्जेक्ट चाहिँ यो आर्ट अफ राइटिङ त भने तर अर्को कुरा चाहिँ मलाई चाहिँ यो शीर्षक अथवा टाइटलहरू लेख्न चाहिँ एकदमै गाह्रो लाग्छ मेरो आफ्नै कथाहरूमा पनि पिक गर्न सो आज चाहिँ अलिकति हामी लेखन शैली अनि कसरी लेखाइ पढ्न सक्छौँ कि सक्दैनौँ सिकाउन सक्छ कि सक्दैन भन्ने कुरातिर अलिक ध्यान दिन्छौँ सो लेट्स स्टार्ट राइट अवे है सो Manju and Prajwal, both of you have masters in creative writing. Masters गर्नुभएको छ हैन सो मैले पनि पढाउँदाखेरि चाहिँ धेरैजना स्टुडेन्ट्सहरू उहाँले चाहिँ लेख्न मन हुन्छ हैन अनि उहाँले आउनुहुन्छ नि भन्नुहुन्छ स्कुल जानै पर्छ त लेख्नलाई हैन यस्तो राइटिङको लागि कहाँ जाने कसरी सिक्ने राइटिङ भनेर सोध्नुहुन्छ
Thank you, Muna. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I can't hear myself either. You know, that's a very important question. I got my master's in creative writing from Oxford, and I got my book deal a year after being on the course. It was a 2-year course. So there was this misconception that the course helped me get the book deal. किनभने के हुँदै थियो त्यो अक्सफोर्डको मेरो कलेजले जसरी मलाई प्रमोट गर्दै थियो त्यो अलमोस्ट यसले चाहिँ यो कोर्स गरेर बुक डिल पायो भनेर उयो गर्नु खोज्दै थियो सो आई ह्याड अ लट अफ पिपल राइटिङ टु मी मलाई धेरैले इन्डियाको नर्थ इस्टबाट होइन अनि त्यहाँदेखि अमेरिकाबाट धेरैले लेखेर के भन्थ्यो भने I am thinking of taking a loan to pursue my master's in creative writing because of your story. It's a good idea, bhanera bhanda so much. Kinabhane your Oxford course total price is about $50,000. You know, if you do not get a scholarship, it's not a cheap course. त्यो भनेर मैले एउटा गार्जियनमा एउटा सानो opinions piece लेखे हैन Well, I'll be very honest with you. Oxford had nothing to do with my book deal. It had a lot to do with some other people's book deals. Osti Bakkar, a 27-year-old, just got shortlisted for the Booker. She happens to be an alumna of our program. She was a few years after me. तर मलाई चाहिँ उयो गरेन कहाँ मलाई अक्सफोर्डको यो help गर्यो भन्दा I dabbled with other genres. You know, I went in there thinking I was a fiction writer. I did not want to write poetry. In fact, 4 or 5 years ago, yay literary festival Kathmanduma huँदा अलिकति एउटा controversial comment गरेको थियो poetry को बारेमा. I didn't want to write poetry. I didn't want to write a screenplay, but the course forced me to write everything. In fact, मेरो एउटा last story, The Immigrants भन्ने storyलाई मैले नै screenplayमा adapt गरेँ हैन Do I think you should go get a master's? Help गर्छ तर $50,000 आफैले तिरेर गर्ने चाहिँ I don't think अमेरिकामा झन् महँगो हुन्छ मुनाको कलेजमा $150,000 हुन्छ है सो त्यस्तो महँगो तिरेर अनि त्यो चाहिँ मेडिसिन गर्ने भने गर्नु MBA गर्ने भने गर्नु ल गर्ने भने गर्नु creative writing I don't think it's a very wise idea.
So just before Manju you speak on that मैले पनि मलाई सोध्दाखेरि मेरो पनि MFA भएको हुनाले मैले पनि नगर्नु भनेर चाहिँ फर्स्ट त्यो आइहाल्छ मुखबाट हैन त्यो one is money of course thankfully some of us have fellowships so it's great तर most of us don't हैन तर अर्को चाहिँ I just didn't have such a great experience in that MFA realm itself तर मैले त्यो भन्दा चाहिँ कुनै नजिकको साथीहरुले चाहिँ आफू चाहिँ MFA गर्ने अनि अरूलाई चाहिँ नगर भन्ने
मेरो चाहिँ नि के भयो भने म पहिला एनजिओहरूमा काम गरिरहेको थिएँ होइन अनि यही अन्नपूर्ण एरियाको एकापहरूमा लोमाथाङमा काम गरे हो र त्यहाँको कथाहरू चाहिँ नि मलाई त्यहाँको मात्र होइन नेपालको कथाहरू लेख्ने इच्छा भयो र त्यसपछि चाहिँ नि म आफैमा आत्मबल थिएन कि मैले यो मेरो सिप पुग्छ यो गर्नलाई भनेर मैले एमएफएमा अप्लाई गरेर अनि स्कलरसिप पाएरै गएको है पैसा त्यो लगानी गर्नु चाहिँ नि म पनि सुझाव दिन सक्दिनँ किनभने त्यो लगानी अनुसारको फिर्ता कहिल्यै आउँदैन अहिलेसम्म आउँदैन होइन सो त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ नि स्कलरसिप पाएर पढ्ने हो भने चाहिँ जानुहोस् होइन एउटा के त्यो अनिवार्य हो जस्तो मलाई लाग्दैन बिकज आई थिङ्क द्याट writing, you learn it mainly just by writing, and you learn it mainly by reading, and those are the two things, and you have to try everything. And so, त्यो जस्तो एमएफए पढ्दाखेरि एउटा स्ट्रक्चर मात्र हो होइन त्यसले चाहिँ नि त्यही प्रज्वलले भन्नुभयो जस्तै सबै विधाहरूमा अलिकति हात हाल्ने सबै विधाको विशेषता होइन जस्तो भनौँ मलाई एकदम प्रयोग चाहिँ नि इच्छा छैन तर पनि प्रयोगवादी साहित्य कस्तो हुँदो रहेछ भनेर एक्सपेरिमेन्टल राइटिङहरू गर्ने एउटा एक्सर्साइजहरू गराउँछ होइन सो त्यसबाट हाम्रो ग्रोथ मात्र हो त्यही कुरा चाहिँ नि आउटसाइड अफ क्रिएटिभ राइटिङ प्रोग्रामहरू पनि गर्न सकिन्छ जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ तर पनि आई वाज भेरी हङ्ग्री फर टेक्निक्स र मैले एकदम त्यसमै फोकस गरेँ र क्राफ्टमै फोकस गरेँ अरू विद्यार्थीको त्यही प्रोग्राममा त्यति राम्रो एक्सपिरियन्स भएन किनभने उनीहरूले जे खोजिरहेको थियो त्यो पाएनन् त्यहाँ सो इट रियली डिपेन्ड्स अन द इन्डिभिजुअल एक्सपिरियन्स अल्सो आई थिङ्क
I want to talk a little bit more about the program in a bit, but before that, can I ask you then? So, MFA गर्ने or creative masters in creative writing गर्ने निर्णय गर्नुभयो अनि त्यहाँ जस्तो तस्तो पुग्नुभयो. I know that you have a BFA in photography, and then you were working at the Village Voice before you started sort of this writing. So, how did writing come to you, or how did you come upon writing? Like, how did you decide that this was going to be it? Because you were sort of headed towards seemed like you were headed towards other places too.
In my life, I was very confused in my 20s. So I studied visual art, which is why I love visual art. It's my first love. Then I came back to Nepal and I was making conceptual art and there was no conceptual and I couldn't explain it to myself or to anyone else and I got really confused. Then I worked in NGOs. Then I thought I had to do an anthropology degree and work in the aid world. So I was very depressed. And then one day and I had already written a book by that. I had written the travelogue to Mustang. And one day I woke up and realized, oh, I've already done what I want to do. So it just came to me, but at the age of 26, 27, after many years of complete confusion. So once it came to me, I just followed that dream.
See, I was working as an advertising executive at the Village Voice, New York ma, होइन अनि जहिले पनि बिहान उठ्ने बित्तिकै I was looking at myself in the mirror with loathing. होइन advertisingले त्यही गर्छ, it sucks the life out of you. होइन अनि मैले काम quit गरेँ. I was traveling around a little bit. I mean, you can't be an Indian and you can't be a Nepali and travel around too much. भने घरमा आमा बोले what the hell are you doing with your life भनेर these questions increase in frequency and vitriol over time. होइन त्यसले गर्दा मैले चाहिँ घरमा पेरेन्ट्सलाई चुप गराउनुको लागि I'm writing a book भनेर फर्स्टमा त्यस्तै भन्थे कि and I wrote one story and then another which later became the stories in the Gorkha's Daughter. अब मेरो the path to writing was laced with ignorance. मलाई त्यति बेला थाहा नै थिएन, I didn't know whether my book would even be read, whether it would be read internationally or it would be read by or pretend read by 5 members of my family. And I'm happy about that because your ignorance के भयो भने मलाई त्यति बेला I didn't know that short story collections received a very stepdaughterly treatment in the publishing world. Agentsहरूले literary उयोहरूले के अरे publishing houseहरूले short stories पढ्दैन भन्छ है मान्छेहरूले. अब हामीले सोच्यो भने we think the busier people get, the more of short stories they should read, right? But apparently that's not the case. हो त्यस्तो भयो अनि त्यसले गर्दा that's how I wrote a few stories in the Gorkha's Daughter. अनि I mean that's how I started writing. मैले त्योभन्दा अगाडि fiction कहिले लेखेको थिएन. I'd taken a few creative writing classes in college. It was a learning process. I was making so many mistakes, but I mean, I'm still making those mistakes. So, a short story novel भन्दा easy चाहिँ हुँदैन रहेछ. I embarked on a collection of short stories thinking it would be the more difficult thing to do. Thinking writing a novel would be more difficult, but that's not the case, at least in my opinion.
It's like when high schoolers think kavita lekhna sajilo huncha kinabhane choto cha kavita त्यही लेख्छु. And actually it's harder in some ways. But you both write fiction and non-fiction. हैन? Like I know both of you have written plenty of essays. Manju, you also translate, and recently you got a grant to translate Ivy Rai's novel. And so you don't only do fiction, you don't only do short stories or novels. So how does it work as a writer who writes in these different genres? Some writers say, you know, just stick to one genre. It's too confusing for people if you like do everything, you know. But then in this day and age, it also seems that the writer has to be so many things. You have to have something to say. You also have to have a way to say it. And then you अब त झन् त्योभन्दा बढी पनि कुरा गर्ने भने you have to be your own publicist, you have to be your own marketing person, you have to be maybe savvy with social media, right? So you kind of have a lot of things that you're doing. So how do you, in terms of techniques and craft, like sort of switch between fiction, non-fiction? How does it change in your processes? And then beyond that too.
Well, Muna is right. I mean, the days of the reclusive writer are well over, unless you're an Elena Ferrante, and even she was almost outed recently, wasn't she? So more, I write what I want to write. Malai kuni kahle bhन्छ, I want to put up a collection of poems by Indian writers born between 1983 and 2013 bhन्छ. I say no to that. Kinabhane I don't enjoy writing poetry, with apologies to all the poets in the audience. हैन? अनि अर्को के भने यो writing assignments हरु आउँदा अब किताब निक्लिने बेलामा, when your book is about to get published, you know, your publicist somehow finds a way for you to write some you know, ridiculous, flippant puff piece for your book, you know, which I mean, it may be a very important topic that you want to write about, but it's sort of masquerading as a you know, anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but anyway, so त्यो भयो अर्को. अनि यो I only write what I want to write about. Travel भयो, I enjoy writing travel pieces tremendously. You know, घुम्नु गएको छ भने हो त्यसलाई, you know, you're sort of monetizing it too in some way. Ani, you talk about the publicity stuff that you have to do. Paila, you know, I used to cringe. जब मेरो publishersहरूले भन्थ्यो नि मलाई, put up every review you get on Facebook, and you know, अनि मलाई अहिले पनि publicistले भन्छ Twitter चलाउँदैन तैले राम्ररी, हैन, you don't use Twitter, but that's because I often don't have much to say. I mean, I respect people who have a lot to say. I respect people who, you know, think writing and activism go hand in hand, and that's wonderful. Mero लागि चाहिँ, I don't know, whatever I'm not comfortable with, मलाई लेख्नै मन पर्दैन. So I don't write it at all. I hope that answers your question.
I think like Prajwal, म पनि कविता लेख्दिनँ, त्यही एउटा विधा मात्र लेख्दिनँ हैन. तर I felt really lucky as a young writer because त्यो बेला यो विधाहरू यति साह्रो छुटिएको थिएन कि. So the same writers जस्तो Salman Rushdieले निकरागुआ जाने बेलामा travel log लेख्यो हैन. Or the same writer will write त्यो विधाहरू सबै त्यो क्रस पोलिनेट गरेर लेख्ने खालको त्यस्तो ट्रेडिसनबाट त्यो बेलामा म लेख्न थालेँ. र आई थिङ्क त्यसपछि चाहिँ नि एउटा कमर्सियलाइज्ड हिसाबले होला या मार्केटिङको हिसाबले होला I think a lot of writers have been discouraged from moving around. So, like Amitav Ghosh, bhanau na, haina? Amitav Ghoshko non-fiction, I prefer his non-fiction to his fiction. I think he's a better non-fiction writer. But he eventually chose fiction and stuck with fiction, haina? And I think, I mean, this must be his own personal choice, but I feel like I was really lucky, and I still am lucky that I can move between these genres. And basically find, because यो बिचमा फेरि युद्धको बेलामा the other thing that I had never done before was युद्धको बेलामा Center for Investigative Journalism, but I got a grant to report on women's experience during the war. अनि र विशेष गरेर ह्युमन राइट्स एङ्गलबाट लेख्ने भनेर म गएँ होइन. अनि कुन्द दीक्षित कहाँ गएर मैले भने मलाई जर्नलिजम गर्न आउँदैन, प्लिज टिच मी हाउ टु, बिकज हि वेन्ट टु द कोलम्बिया स्कुल अफ जर्नलिजम होइन. मलाई यो के हो, यो विधाको के वाट इज द प्रक्रिया भनेर सोद्धाखेरि हि बेसिकली जस्ट गेभ मी द रुल्स इन 1 आवरमा. कोलम्बिया स्कुल अफ जर्नलिजममा सिकेको जति सबै ज्ञान मलाई 1 घन्टामा दिनुभयो र मैले गएर रिपोर्टिङ पनि गरेँ होइन. सो त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ नि यो टेक्निकहरू जस्तो नन फिक्सन लेख्दाखेरिको विधा या फिक्सन लेख्दाखेरिको टेक्निकहरू तिनीहरू देयर जस्ट लाइक टुल किट्स होइन. सो यु हेभ टु लर्न द टुल्स, देन यु चुज वाट काइन्ड अफ राइटिङ यु वान्ट टु डु, एन्ड देन यु जस्ट फलो द्याट. एन्ड सो आई फिल भेरी लकी that I can move. You're a poet, right?
No, not a poet.
Okay.
I translate poetry.
Translate
Thank
poetry,
you to
okay.
you, actually. So, well, okay, we'll get into poetry a little bit later. But I also asked this, Tobele, you just said something about saying no to things, right? And then saying yes to certain things, like that report that you had to write, right? So how do you decide as a writer what to say yes to, what to say no to? There was a little piece that Parijat wrote in August 2nd, 1988. I just want to read just a little bit. So ulai चाहिँ एकजना एन्थ्रोपोलोजिस्टले चाहिँ विदेशी अमेरिकन एन्थ्रोपोलोजिस्टले के भनेको छ, यो सानो उपदेश जस्तो दिएर छ कि पारिजात उपन्यास लेख उपन्यास, यो काम एउटा गुरन्तर काम हो, सलिड वर्क हो तिम्रो निम्ति. तिमी यो साप्ताहिक पाक्षिक मासिकमा लेखेर के गर्छौ? उपन्यास तिम्रो निम्ति साहित्यिक sorry, I can't read my own साहित्यिक कीर्तिमान हुनेछ हैन. And then ठोस काम गर्ने हो भने अरूलाई नो भन्न सक्नुपर्छ. तिमी पनि नो भन्ने गर. And I thought that was interesting, because sometimes as a writer you are asked to do certain things, right? And like, what do you say yes to, and what do you say no to, and where does that compass, I don't know, what is that guiding thing?
It's this is for me a really big problem in Nepal in particular, because I feel like I want to be supportive of writers who are coming up and the younger generation and new writers. So I want to really be supportive, but I really have to protect my time, especially fiction लेख्ने बेलामा. Non-fiction भन्दा पनि fiction चाहिँ नि यस्तो विधा हो कि you've created these characters who are not real, and you have to make them so real in your imagination that you can write about them in a way that convinces the reader, right? So you have to spend so much time doing imaginative work, and it takes a lot of solitude. हैन. सो र नेपाली समाजमा नो भन्ने चलनै छैन हैन. नो भन्दाखेरि एकदमै हैन त्यो एकदमै रुड भएको जस्तो महसुस हुन्छ हैन. सो इट्स बिन अ कन्स्टेन्ट प्रब्लम फर मी. मैले त्यो नेपाली उसमा समाजबाट सिकेको एउटा सिप चाहिँ के हो भने हुन्छ भनेर भागाभाग गर्ने हैन. त्यो एउटा उपाय हो, जुन राम्रो उपाय चाहिँ होइन. नो भन्न सिक्नु चाहिँ पर्छ, तर मैले अहिलेसम्म राम्रोसँग त्यो स्किल सिकेको छैन.
म पहिला जुन म्यागजिनले पनि मलाई इन्टरभ्यूको लागि भन्थ्यो यस भन्थे, जुन लिट्रेचर फेस्टिभल कहाँ बिहारको बिचमा एउटा गाउँमा लिटरेरी फेस्टिभल हो भने नि यस भन्थे होइन. अनि मान्छेहरूले उनीहरूको राइटिङ पठाउँदा पनि पहिला आई वाज एक्सट्रिमली सपोर्टिभ, बट देन यु रियलाइज देयर इज नो एन्ड टु इट. म एउटा लिटरेरी फेस्टिभलमा जाँदा कुनै कसले एउटा उसको इन्टायर म्यानुस्क्रिप्ट दैलो मुनि हालिदिएको थियो है रुमको हो. सो आई मिन I mean, I value my time tremendously. And orko ke huncha bhane, sometimes these are not very talented writers. Haina? I don't want to be the person telling them, look, you should give up writing fiction. Why don't you write something else? But if there is a gem somewhere, Kale Malai, I've just written this. Could you just offer me some comments? And it's say 1,500 words, and it's amazing. I'll say so. होइन अनि यो अर्को के हुन्छ भने यो लिटरेरी वर्ल्डमा अहिले एउटा यो लिटरेरी फेस्टिभल्सको कल्चर आएको छ है as you can see here. I have realized that a lot of these literary festivals are useless for you career-wise. They're a great time. मजा आउँछ त्यहाँ साथी भेट्छ होइन उयो हुन्छ पार्टिजहरू राम्रो हुन्छ you interact with readers होइन तर म 3 years continuously एउटा लिट फेस्टदेखि अर्को लिट फेस्ट जाँदै थिएँ मोटाके हो gaining weight like anything अनि त्यसो गर्दा चाहिँ I finally sat down and said to myself, exactly what have I done? Yeah, I've triggered discourse. That's all right. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, did the benefits outweigh the cost to my time, to whether or not it was what I wanted to do? Panels ma halinsa मान्छेहरूले South Asian literary identity छ कि छैन? Is there a Nepali literary identity? Is there a Nepali Indian literary identity? Is there a Nepali Indian literary identity in English? Oh, त्यस्तो भनेर हालिदिन्छ अनि it's the same thing over and over again. So thankfully, I mean, this has been so
We're
great.
not
It's
gonna
been
talk
so
about
refreshing.
identity.
All Muna and Manju. But no चाहिँ भन्नै पर्छ सिक्नै पर्छ नभए you don't get any time to write.
You know, that's funny because both of you are actually very good about nurturing writing in your own ways with other writers, young writers. I mean, Manju, I reached out to you. म ग्राड स्कुल पढिरहेको थिएँ अनि मञ्जुश्री थापा अब म सानैदेखि पढेर नट सानै सरी आई डोन्ट मिन टु एज यु No, basically at a time when, नेपालीहरूले अङ्ग्रेजीमा उपन्यास त के त्यो पढ्ने त्यो किताब यसरी बोकेर हामीले पढ्न सक्ने थिएँ हाम्रो क्लोजेस्ट वर Indian writers writing in English and I could identify with that. Then when you were writing, I could sort of like imagine, right, being a writer. So obviously you're instrumental in my sort of journey. And so म student grad student थिएँ अनि यत्तिकै हावा तालमा मञ्जुश्रीलाई मैले एउटा इमेल लेखेको थिएँ अब को मुना गुरुङ भनेर Hi Manju, I'm doing this thing, एउटा research paper अनि कुनै के question and then you wrote back. So I mean you're saying, obviously you have to protect your time, but you've also been really great at sort of nurturing writers like myself and others, and you introduced me to Sulochana, whose work I'm working with, like in terms of translating poems, and the same with you, Prajwal. When I first met Prajwal, मैले उसलाई जिस्काएको थिएँ कि उसको कथा चाहिँ द गोर्खाज डटर होइन अनि म चाहिँ लाउरेको छोरी पऱ्यो होइन अनि मैले मेरो कथा लेखा तिमीले भनेर उसलाई एकदम जिस्काएको थिएँ and then after that we've been in touch, and anytime like with Katha Satha work you're always sort of asking me like, hey, how can I help? So obviously so you don't have to go to school to learn how to write only, right? There are other alternate ways, such as you guys are also providing. Can you speak a little bit about what other alternate ways there are for people to learn writing from other writers, with...
Yeah, sorry, Muna, you raised a very pertinent point there. के हुन्छ भने मैले चाहिँ when an aspiring writer approaches me and says, I do not have the money to apply to a creative writing master's, more first के भन्छु भने first read a lot. अर्को कुरा के भन्छु भने get a group of like-minded people. होइन अब I know Pokarama there is a readers group. I think there are a few book clubs too, one of which might have collaborated with the festival. Get a few like-minded people. त्यहाँदेखि if you think you have some talent, and अब अर्को के हुन्छ भने आजकल जसले पनि जे पनि फेसबुकमा हाल्छ अनि भएको नभएको मान्छेहरूले लाइक गरिदिन्छ and everyone सबजनाको सेल्फ एस्टिम यस्तो बुस्ट भइरहेको हुन्छ, that may be dangerous है. I know, but if you think you have some talent, I say go to your English teacher in school or to your English professor. Because, if you pordinu ni manera, and ask him or her for his or her opinions. Na ke racha bhanera. Then, once you've made some progress with your work and start sending your work out. Magazine. There's an amazing magazine that comes out of Nepal called Lalit. And they have a story writing competition every year. A Himalco story writing competition थियो about 2 or 3 years ago. So Nepalमा मात्र हैन, you can send your works out to papers in India all over the world. You can send it to the New Yorker for all I care हैन. त्यसो गर्दा त्यो that is another way. So find a group of like-minded people who take reading and writing seriously, and run with them. मेरो अहिले पनि मेरो first readers अहिले पनि मेरो undergraduate level को, not your masters को, undergraduate level को creative writing professor is my first reader. जे पनि लेख्छु म उहाँलाई first कुरा पठाउँछु, and she's been a part of my writing journey all this while. So, and I hope you get mentors like that. And who says you wouldn't?
I agree.
Yeah, like gone are the days of the writer writing in a room by themselves with wine. Like, you need a song.
Never write
going,
with
like,
wine.
yeah, yeah.
Never write with wine. That I will tell you. Afterwards, maybe, but not during. But one of the things is that for me also, as a writer, meeting, and I feel really fortunate in Nepal that I was able to meet other writers who I really respected and whose work I respected. You know? So once you meet the writer, what do you get from meeting the writer that you don't get from reading their work becomes the issue, which is that you can have a dialogue on very technical things. So fiction, it's a very strange obsession. I know. So you're talking about characterization or Nepali साहित्यमा एउटा जुन एकदम फर्मल ल्याङ्ग्वेज पहिला प्रयोग हुन्थ्यो होइन त्यहाँबाट धेरै झरेर यो हाम्रो बोलीको भाषामा आएको छ नि अहिले र all of that becomes, even if it's not a literary movement, it comes through dialogue between writers. होइन सबैजनाले कुरा गर्दा गर्दा everyone moves together towards certain directions. So I feel like it's actually like it's not just me trying to nurture younger writers, but I think it's also trying to keep that dialogue open because I also am still growing as a writer. You know? So for me, I mean, reading your work, I grow from that too. So it becomes a very sort of synergistic energy.
That's a nicer way of looking at it rather than top down or like, yeah. Well, I gave Manjushree and Prajwal a little bit of homework because I love being a teacher. I asked them to sort of share with us maybe pieces of writing that they find themselves going towards. Each time maybe they're stuck or confused or just happy or whenever you're writing in the process. So कुनै आफ्नै कृति नभए पनि कसैको. So I'll let you guys share some things that maybe you've brought for us.
Moni, I'm going to read a very short extract from Fitzgerald's short story called The Bowl. It's not a very popular short story. I mean, it's not like The Great Gatsby or anything. But, there's this paragraph that spoke to me. It's about American football, and I don't care about American football at all. But, something about this paragraph is just so beautiful. It's brilliant. So, I reveled in football as audience, amateur statistician, and forward participant. For I'd played in prep school, and once there was a headline in the school newspaper, quote, Deering and Mullins tar against Taft in stiff game Saturday, unquote. When I came into lunch after the battle, the school stood up and clapped, and the visiting coach shook hands with me and prophesied incorrectly that I was going to be heard from. The episode is laid away in the most pleasant lavender of my past. That year, I grew very tall and thin, and when at Princeton the following fall, I looked anxiously over the freshman candidates and saw the polite disregard with which they looked back at me, I realized that that particular dream was over. Keane said he might make me into a very fair pole vaulter, and he did. But it was a poor substitute. Thank you.
Why did you pick that? Do you want to say?
Oh,
Is it something that you go to
yeah, I
often,
mean,
and why?
you know, there is this childhood dream, that's been being played around with. अनि उसले यस्तो मजाले ह्युमरले डिल गरिरहेको छ त्यो I mean, we all have childhood dreams. सानो सानो हुँदा, I don't know, we dream of being astronauts and being presidents and whatnot, right? And the fact that the dream is no longer coming true, उसले त्यही subtle humor use गरेको छ. And I think the words sing, the sentences, just they're so beautiful, so eloquent. Yeah.
I think for me, so my working process is a little bit backwards. I tend to think of the theme or the concept of a book before I think of the characters. And then I have a mood, and then I need to really flesh out the characters and really think through them. So when I read, I tend to read for poetry and for language. I'm really, so my novels tend to have plots, and they tend to move forward at a pace, but I don't read for plot. I really just don't care what happens in a book. I really just read for the language and the texture of the language and the beauty of it. So this is a book dictated by Teresa Hakkyung-cha, who was a Korean American writer, and it's a book that is extremely experimental. Anyone who needs a plot to read must never read this book. But this is a book that I read almost once a year or maybe once every 2 years. And even this time when I was coming from Toronto to Kathmandu, I was very anxious because I didn't pack it in my suitcase because I knew I might want to read it. And then I got to Kathmandu and saw it in my library there, so I was very happy. So I'm just going to read a short passage from it. It's extremely poetic. It's about the difficulty of writing women's history. She mimics the speaking that might resemble speech, anything at all. Bared noise, groan, bits torn from words. Since she hesitates to measure the accuracy, she resorts to mimicking gestures with the mouth. The entire lower lip would lift upwards, then sink back to its original place. She would then gather both lips and protrude them out in a pout, taking in the breath that might utter something, one thing, just one. But the breath falls away. With a slight tilting of her head backwards, she would gather the strength in her shoulders and remain in this position. It murmurs inside, it murmurs. Inside is the pain of speech, the pain to say, larger still, greater than is the pain not to say, says nothing against the pain to speak. It festers inside, the wound liquid, dust, must break, must void. From the back of her neck, she releases her shoulders free. She swallows once more, one more time would do. In preparation, it augments to such a pitch, endless drone, refueling itself, autonomous, self-generating, swallows with last efforts, last wills against the pain that wishes it to speak.
It has like this cadence, and you're reading it like that too.
Yeah.
It's like reading Muna's work. Yeah, it's like reading Muna's work, actually.
No. Okay, so this Manju, you started talking about sort of your work and how you said you work backwards, right? There was this podcast I was listening to with Elizabeth Gilbert, sort of talking about ideas, and she was saying, well, something about ideas being out in the cosmos, and you have to sort of show up at your desk every morning to sit there. I know what you're gonna say. To sit there with your arms wide open, to sort of like receive it, and if you don't, then it's gonna go away, and then someone else will catch it. And it was like sort of her way of seeing ideas and how they come to you. How do ideas come to you? I mean, sometimes I have students who say, I want to write, but I don't know what to write about. Everything's been written about, right? Ani hamro feri ke huncha bhane, especially if you're a Nepali writing in English, it's almost like there's a quota or something. It's like, oh no, so-and-so wrote that story, I can't write that anymore, right? Like this idea of like, oh, as though there aren't enough spaces for multiple stories to exist. So like, how do ideas come, go? How do you Like, how does it work for you? And maybe a little bit about writing process, which is like a common question, but it might be helpful for some of us to hear.
I think for me, I know that every book is going to take 2 to 4 years. 2 is being very optimistic, 4 to 5 years, realistically. So I am very, very selective about what I write about. So right now I'm starting on a novel, and the novel, again, I start with the concept. It's about citizenship, equal citizenship rights for women, which is an issue dear to my heart. But it's not going to work as a novel if I don't create the characters, if I don't give them a plot, if I don't give them atmosphere, if I don't have the language, if I don't use the toolkits of literary fiction to my best abilities. So for me, the process becomes extremely laborious to try and, and I do everything. I plot out the story. Write the zero. I've got the zero draft now. I'm working on the first draft. The story might not follow the plot, but I do create the plot. And then I do the background research. I do, you imagine the history of the characters. I start, once I've got the all of that there, basically it's a question of choosing the tone and the feel of the piece. Is it going to be an angry piece? Is it going to be funny? What's the dominant emotion? And what is the kind of language that will serve that story? So then it becomes a sort of 4 or 5 year process of finding the language to bring this story to life, which sounds very abstract, but it is extremely painful. And I'd like to talk about pain because it's a lot of time, so this is going to be my 11th book. It's a lot of time spent in front of a computer, and some days I panic that half of my life is being spent in front of a computer. So it's a lot of sitting alone by yourself in front of a computer. So it is a struggle, but you do have to show up, otherwise it's not going to be written. So coming to events like this is wonderful, but it's a real choice not to write. It's an avoidance of writing.
Interesting. Yeah.
Muna, you're asking someone who has not written anything since 2014. The most writing I've done since my novel Land Where I Flee came out is Facebook status updates. So, Miro ke cha bhane, I have no discipline in my writing life at all. Anti-schedule bhanne jasto kya ta. I write only when I feel like it, and which might have been why there's been no writing done in the past few years. Once I know that I'm in the mood to write, once I know that the burst of inspiration is about to strike, I let go of everything, and then I sit down. I've written for 17 days. I know. Lunch, dinner, I cancel everything because it never comes again. So might as well exploit it. I claim to be at work on my third book, a novel, for 4 or 5 years. Actually, I may have written bits and pieces of that book over 2 1-week periods. The burst of inspiration strike or the ekep, this was in March Yopali, agadi 2.5 years agadi थियो. So I know a lot of my friends who Shobadele मलाई अस्ति के भनेको थियो भने I write at least 2,500 words a day no matter what. And I mean, you should see the kind of prolificacy there is. Opinion column लेखिरहेको छ 5-6 उयोमा हो अनि त्यहाँदेखि no, she has about 3 or she has about 3 or 4 columns come out on a daily basis, and she's writing a novel every 2 years or so. मैले हो त्यो try गरेको छु 1,500 words a day लेख्ने कि at the end of the day आफैलाई reward गर्ने. पहिला चाहिँ म के भन्थे भने the writing came out very stilted, it came out very convoluted and twisted, it didn't feel natural भन्थे. अहिले चाहिँ when I go back, when I revisit these things, these passages or paragraphs that I've written, I realize they're not so bad after all. So I may have a way to shoehorn them into a future piece of work. तर पनि डिसिप्लिन चाहिँ अहिले छैन त्यही कारणले यसरी लिट फेस्टहरू आउँदै बसेको कि सो आई क्यान कन्टिन्यू बिङ रेलेभेन्ट विदाउट प्रोड्युसिङ एनी न्यू वर्क
I want to give us a little bit more time for question because I'm sure audience have that. So I'm gonna ask my last question and it might be a little bit long, but it so. My parents are Tibetan Buddhists. They sort of believe that very strongly, and the monk once said, you know, like, oh, you should pray, you should pray to me, and I was like, okay, so give me the mantra for like Saraswati, who's like the art, like the goddess of art and creativity, and then I'll pray to her, you know, and then he was like, no, and I was like, why? And he said, because if you pray to Saraswati, you're not going to get any money. And so he wouldn't give me the mantra, right? And so clearly, I don't know if you guys write for money, but I don't know. You can answer that question on your own, I know. I don't know how you would supplement that. You two are, if I can call you like full-time writers, right? It's not like you have like a 9-to-5 job elsewhere, or some business on the side, right? In that way. So question one is like, how do you make that work? And then the second question is, if you're not writing for money, if it's not glamorous, and if it's so much pain as it is, why write?
I like money. I'll be very, very honest here. I think one of the reasons I've never written poetry is because there's absolutely no money there. And I have a lot of respect for poets who do it for no money, but I like money. Malai paisa man parcha ho. Ani ke ho bhane see I teach once every 2 years or so. Mo America ma creative writing e padaउँछु हैन अनि because I was published in a number of countries, I received a decent advance. अहिले सकिसक्यो. So anyway, so पैसा नहुँदै नहुने भन्ने होइन. You know, when you're writing, it's there are people out there who make a lot of money, and I hope you'll be amongst them. So म पनि त्यो I question myself every so often. I mean, you know, writing, as Manju said, is hard work. You know, Hemingwayले भनेको होला, writing is easy. You just sit down in front of the typewriter and bleed. हैन भनेर भनेको छ. It's difficult work. मलाई naturally आउँदैन कि त्यो, at least पहिला त आउँथ्यो. In fact, it was a lot easier to write the first 2 books than it is right now. Maybe it's because I've evolved considerably as a writer between those books and now. तर I don't know. अहिले त मलाई यस्तो उयो लाग्छ, you know, अब भोलि लेख्नु पर्छ भनेर, even if it is some एउटा त्यो हाउडेको opinion piece नभए के हुन्छ नि, like, you know, the kind of thing that you rustle up in an hour or something, whole night अगाडिदेखि 2-3 nights अगाडिदेखि anxiety जस्तो हुनु थाल्छ हैन. I question why, but I guess, you know, that's what writers do. You don't know why you do it. होइन अब you know, पहिला भन्थे, oh, I like the fame, I like the money, ha पैसा छैन र भए पनि I like the money भन्थे हैन. तर अहिले I really don't know why I do it, and I think I have one more book in me at least. I mean, again, I'm on a panel with someone who has written 11 books. Oh wow, that's amazing. एउटा किताब चाहिँ जसरी तसरी भए पनि निकाल्छु in the next 20 years. That I may not continue. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So, you know, I want to talk about the pragmatics of writing because it is actually very important and very difficult. The main rule, I think, for writing, especially fiction, is to have low overheads. होइन र म पहिला नेपालमा बस्ने बेलामा low overheads थियो होइन. I didn't pay rent. You can stay at your parents' house. खानाहरू यहाँ compared to the rest of the world सस्तै हो. बाहिरको levelको if you get royalties यहाँ बस्न ओर्न सबै ठिकै थियो. So त्यो म्यानेज गरिरहेको थिएँ मैले. त्यसरी चाहिँ नि यहाँ राम्रैसँग म्यानेज गरिरहेको थिएँ. त क्यानाडा सरेपछि चाहिँ नि त्यहाँको ओभरहेडै हाई कि रेन्ट इज हाई, एभ्रिथिङ इज एक्सपेन्सिभ. सो यु हेभ टु एन्टर द्याट इकोनोमी. लकिली त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि ग्रान्टहरूको because Canada is basically it's like a resource-based economy, mining, oil, water. Right? These are its resources, but it wants to have a culture, so they really fund their arts a lot, and so it's really important to them to fund their arts. So a lot of writers really rely very strongly, as I do. I've received a grant for my next novel, which is why I'm writing it at all. तर पनि मलाई त्यो I live book by book, and it's really pathetic because I have friends who are bankers, and I have I have friends who really have money, and so it's very embarrassing when we talk about it because writers को जमघट भएपछि they always talk about money के how are you managing के हो कसरी गर्यो यो 4 वर्ष कसरी अफोर्ड गर्यो भन्ने कुरा आउँछ नि हैन ब्याङ्कर्सहरु भेट्दा चाहिँ साहित्यको बारे कुरा गर्छन् रे के so for me I think it's really become an issue अब बुढेसकालमा हैन will I still live book by book is it still going to be like okay I got a grant now I can fund myself for 2 more years भन्ने त्यसरी कति जेलसम्म बाँच्ने अनि भन्ने त्यो ठुलै प्रश्न हो that's really a difficult question in terms of why do it then I think it's an obsession. I think it's like hijo Mohammad Hanifle pani he had described novel writing as a kind of mental illness, and I think it's just that I can't cope with life if I don't do something. So पहिला आर्ट गर्थे अहिले 20 वर्ष भयो लेख्न थाले. So it's my only coping mechanism with life, and it's the only way I can structure my life. I can't take it without that. So it's a mental illness. म पनि त्यही उसमा छु त्यो नलेखिकन म पागलै हुन्छु जस्तो लाग्छ.
मलाई यहाँ Q&A को उस sign आइसक्यो, but thank you so much for chatting with me, and then audiences I just want to open up for questions. Yeah.
Do you think writing fiction simultaneously in more than one language enriches the work or downgrades the work? Have you ever tried it? And well, Manjushree Thapa and Praveen Adhikari seem to be the torch bearers of translating Nepali literature into English in the current literary scene. So this is for Manjushree Thapa. Why don't you try writing your next novel, ongoing novel, simultaneously in English and Nepali?
Hey? Thank you for the suggestion.
Can I add one more question? Can I add one more question? Now, do you have to sit in front of the computer to write? Do you have to sit in front of the computer to write? I mean, these are personal questions for both of you.
To answer your first question, I actually did. मैले बिचमा नेपाली बिकज मेरो नेपाली अलि खतमै भइसकेको थियो म कलेजबाट यहाँ फर्केपछि चाहिँ नि फेरि सिक्ने भनेर मन्जुल दाइसँग बसेर एकदम घोकेकै हो ग्रामरहरू घोक्या अनि नेपाली साहित्य पढ्न थालेँ हैन अनि त्यसपछि आफ्नो पनि अलिकति आर्ट बढ्न थाल्यो म नेपालीमै लेखौँ कि भन्ने पनि फिलिङ आयो र मैले एउटा कथा लेखेँ र त्यो एउटा कथाबाट मलाई थाहा भयो कि मेरो यो जुन एक्सप्रेसिभ रेन्ज छ इङ्ग्लिसमा नेपालीमा त्यो एक्सप्रेसिभ रेन्ज डेभलप गर्नको लागि धेरै वर्षको मेहनत जान्छ र त्यो गर्नुभन्दा ट्रान्सलेट गर्दाखेरि अरू कृतिहरूलाई इङ्ग्लिसमा बरु ट्रान्सलेट गर्दाखेरि मेरो पनि अलिकति म पनि आफै अलि युजफुल भएको जस्तो लाग्यो नेपाली साहित्यलाई हैन र मेरो आफ्नो महत्त्वाकांक्षा चाहिँ नि नेपालीमै लेख्नुपर्छ भन्ने मैले त्यसपछि छाड्दिएँ हैन त्यो म सक्दिनँ भन्ने कुरा हैन तर त्यो गर्नलाई जुन मेहनत गर्नुपर्छ त्यो गरिन्जेलसम्म धेरैवटा उपन्यास यता लेखिँदैन हैन भन्ने मलाई फिलिङ भएर मैले त्यो डिसिजन गरेँ र त्यसपछि मैले ट्रान्सलेट मात्र गरिरहेको छु मलाई एउटै मात्र रिग्रेट के छ भने मेरो कृतिहरू त्यति एउटा किताब चाहिँ नि नेपालीमा अनुवाद भएको छ र अर्को आउँदैछ नेक्स्ट उज्जवल प्रसाईबाट अनुवाद भइरहेछ अहिले नेपाली पाठक कहाँ चाहिँ नि पुग्न सकेको छैन भन्ने एउटा रिग्रेट हो तर म आफैले चाहिँ नि नेपालीमा लेख्न सक्छु भनेर मलाई अहिले लाइफ इज टु सर्ट भनेरै डिसाइड गरेँ मैले त्यो बेला
Can I add to that question about language that you questioned, which I didn't get to ask? Is how about like thinking in Nepali? Like, does that happen when you're writing in English, and then also like being inspired by works Nepali कृतिहरूबाटै inspired भएको तपाईले लेख्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो कहीं आउँछ हुन्छ नि त्यो both of you, yeah.
I mean, for me, it's definitely मैले नेपाली साहित्य पढेर मेरो आफ्नै साहित्य बल अलिकति ले बल पाएँ कि. So I feel like I really got enriched by it by reading people like Narayan ढकाल हिजो आउनु भएको थियो, खगेन्द्र दाईको कामहरू र anything मोहन कोइरालाको कविताहरू हैन त्यो सबैबाट त्यो एक्सपोजरबाट मेरो आफ्नै इङ्ग्लिस साहित्य पनि अलि स्ट्रङ भयो जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ किनभने I'm writing about Nepali characters, who are thinking in Nepali, who are talking in Nepali, who are living in Nepali. So in a way, my writing in English is an act of translation. You're translating that whole world into the world of English literature. So for me, it was extremely enriching.
You know, हाम्रो आइसिएससी स्कुल्सहरूमा इन्डियामा नेपाली एकदमै सजिलो छ हैन. अब केस इन पोइन्ट मैले मेरो क्लास 10 को बोर्ड एक्जाममा 88 पाएको हो नेपालीमा हैन. अनि एकदमै सजिलो छ. फर वाट एभर रिजन उनीहरूले सिलेबसमा एउटा भ्रमर भन्ने किताब हालेको थियो, विच आई थिङ्क इज अ रियली ब्याड नोभल. You know, I don't know तपाईहरुले पढ्नु भएको छ कि छैन रूपनारायण सिंह. The reason त्यो हालेको चाहिँ के भने, I think he was the first Nepali Indian to write a novel that became extremely popular, or that sold very well, or that was critically acclaimed. One of those things or all of those things. हैन. मैले अनि नेपालीमा actually मैले The Gorkha's Daughter को first story translate गर्नु try गरे. I failed at it spectacularly. It's सानो वर्ड्सहरु उयो हैन ट्राई गरे. That's when त्यति बेला म न्युयोर्कमा थिए, घरमा पेरेन्ट्सहरु ग्याङटोकमा हुँदा म फोन गरिरहन्थे यो वर्ड के हुन्छ भन्दा उनीहरुले they were helping me out, and then my dad playfully said, like हाम्रो पनि नेपाली त्यस्तो राम्रो त छैन, so maybe we should attempt to translate it भनेर. That's how गोर्खा की छोरी came about. हुन्छ, my parents just thought it would be a fun thing to do. गर्दा गर्दै and नेपालले publish पनि गर्यो गोर्खा की छोरी, which was amazing. Again मन्जुले भनेको जस्तै for the book to reach the very people who were written about, हैन, यो भुटनीज रेफ्युजीहरु जसले इंग्लिश मजाले नपढ्नु सक्ला, some of themले है उनीहरुले नेपालीमा पढ्नु पाउँदा, that was amazing. त्यो अरु कुनै no other translation has quite held a candle to the Nepali translation, in my opinion. त्यो in how it made me feel. Ani do I think in Nepali? Of course, dialogueहरु एकाअर्काले कुरा गर्दा त म totally Nepali मै सोच्छु. अब एउटा मेरो भुटानी रेफ्युजीलाई नि हैन, my अनामिका भन्ने छ, she is a headstrong woman है. केटाहरुले जिस्काउँदा she turns back and says आमाले बिरालोको दूध खुवाएको थियो कि क्या, because the guy's voice is very squeaky. So I translated that into English, of course. I mean, a lot got lost in the process, but I'm so glad. म चाहिँ नेपालीमा डायलगहरु सोच्छु. अब novel अलिकति एउटा upper middle class family को थियो, they speak in English with one another. त्यस्तो बेसी उयो नेपाली सोचिन, but I mean the language figures very, very prominently in my writing. In fact, I call Land Where I Flee my love letter to the Nepali language, because I am not able to write in that language. I have decided to write about the language, the onomatopoeic deliciousness. We have such a rich language. अनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ म इङ्ग्लिशमा praise गरेर उयो लेखेको छु. Yeah.
Maybe one last question, and then yeah.
Hi, I have a question for the MFA Creative Writing graduates, any or all of you. Just to go back to the beginning of the session, I hope you won't consider this question rude or flippant, but there are some people who say that creative writing programs actually make you a worse writer, or at least don't help you as a writer. Who says these things, and is there any truth to it?
I know a number of friends of mine who think their creative writing degrees were a disservice to their writing careers. Often, a creative writing program. Muna, do you want to take over?
No.
You were talking about something very important. Please talk
Well,
about it. Yeah.
well, I was saying that the structure of the creative writing program in MFAs कस्तो हुन्छ भने workshop हुन्छ, seminar हुन्छ, अनि आफ्नो लेखाइमा 12 जनासँग share गर्ने अनि feedback पाउने, right? त्यो structure नै अलिक realistic structure होइन, like real life ma in some ways, right? And also for me what happened was I was one of the few like in my classes there were a lot of like mostly white folks, American folks, and so when they were reading my works there was just like they'd just tell me stuff like, oh, you should write a novel, or oh, it's a short story, but they're like, you should write a novel, and it's like that's not useful feedback, or this idea that you write a draft and maybe त्यतिखेर feedback पाउनु is not the best thing, but then that's what happens in a workshop, right? You know, maybe the kind of feedback you get is like in those workshops is stuff that you get like right before it goes to publishing or something like. So it was very confusing for me, like in terms of process, and the structure itself seemed very not real to life in some ways. Like, yeah.
I mean, for me in my MFA program, I found, I mean, सुरुवातमा कति 14-15 जना थियौं विद्यार्थी, so it was quite a large workshop भन्नु पर्यो. त्यहाँबाट त्यो feedback आउने बेलामा यस्तो mean कमेन्टहरु आउने हैन, त्यो टिक्न नसकेर 4-5 जना त हैन first semester मै they left हैन. People who stuck it out, by the end we were about 9 and it was mostly women, eh, who stuck it out. Alli tolerance high होला हैन pain को लागि. So by the end many of us were not talking to each other. It was a really rough atmosphere, and I know that several of them stopped writing altogether. So I think it's definitely, you know, every program is also different, every individual is different. And the structure, as Muna said, is not for everyone. I felt really lucky that I was older when I went. I was very confident. I knew what I wanted. I had my subject matter, so I wasn't confused about what to write about. And again, I also had mostly white students, and they would always say, "There's always Nepal in your stories. Everything is about Nepal." But that's what I wanted to do, right? So I was a little older and I knew what I wanted and I got it. But I don't think that happens with everyone.
But thank you so much. Please continue the conversation. हाम्रो time चाहिँ सक्यो, तर उहाँहरू they're here. Their books are also at the bookstore. Maybe you can grab them to sign it. Continue the conversations यता मैदानमा पनि. And Ravi, we can keep talking about MFAs too. But thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. This is wonderful. Thanks.